Okay, let's dive right in. There's this pretty incredible story making the rounds.
Mm.
Scientists, they've apparently found a completely new color,
That's right. They're calling it Olo.
olo, and it's meant to be this super saturated, unique color,
Yeah,
something we've literally never seen before. And it's supposedly beyond what any screen can show us.
exactly. It sounds almost like science fiction, doesn't it?
It really does. You hear new color and think, wait, how is that even possible? So today we're going to get into the science behind this. It's pretty mind-bending stuff.
It is. And our main sources for this are a report published in Science Advances and some great coverage from The Guardian. They really dig into the details.
Perfect. So our mission today, for everyone listening, is to figure out how on earth did they find this color? What makes Olo so special? Crucially, why can't I just Google it and see it on my phone?
Right.
And, what does this discovery tell us about human vision, about its limits,
Hmm.
and maybe its potential?
Loads of fascinating questions.
Okay, so let's start right there. What is Olo, fundamentally?
Well, the simplest way to put it is it's a color sensation, but one our eyes don't normally encounter, ever.
So not like finding a new shade of blue in the deep ocean or something.
No, nothing like that. The handful of people, literally just a few researchers who've experienced it,
Mm.
they struggled to describe it. They say things like something like a peacock blue or teal.
Okay, I can picture that. Peacock blue, teal.
But then they immediately say that description doesn't do it justice. Not even close. They use the phrase off the charts saturation.
Off the charts. Wow.
Yeah.
That really paints a picture of, well, something intense.
Exactly. And the researchers are very clear. Even comparing it to known colors is misleading. They even showed, like, a turquoise square in some reports,
Uh-huh.
but they stress that this image is just a pale, pale imitation. It cannot capture the real experience of Olo.
So that picture isn't actually Olo.
Definitely not. Austin Rorda, one of the vision scientists involved, put it very bluntly. He said, "There is no way to convey that color in an article or on a monitor." He added, "The whole point is that this is not the color we see. It's just not. So what we might see in an article is just a placeholder, really."
This is genuinely wild. So if you can't see it in nature, you can't see it on a screen,
Hmm.
how did they even discover it? How did anyone experience it? This involves lasers, right?
That's the key, yeah. Olo can only be perceived, at least currently, through direct laser manipulation of the retina.
Whoa, okay. Lasers on the retina. Tell me more about that. Sounds intense.
It does, but it was done very carefully. The Guardian's report explains how the researchers fired very low power, precisely aimed laser pulses into their own eyes.
Into their own eyes. Brave scientists.
Absolutely. The aim wasn't to damage anything, obviously, but to stimulate the photoreceptor cells, the cones, in a way that nature never does, pushing perception beyond its usual limits.
Okay, so targeted laser pulses. What happened? What did they actually see?
Well, the reaction seemed pretty profound. Ren Eng, he's an electrical engineer on the team, described it quite vividly.
What did he say?
He said, "We predicted from the beginning that it would look like an unprecedented color signal, but we didn't know what the brain would do with it." And then he just said, "It was jaw-dropping. It's incredibly saturated."
Jaw-dropping. That says a lot. Incredibly saturated. So not just a bit different, but fundamentally new and intense.
That seems to be the consensus from the few who've seen it.
Right. So how does this laser trick work? What's it doing in the eye that light normally doesn't? I guess we need a quick detour into how color vision works normally.
Yeah, a quick refresher helps. Basically, inside our retinas, we have these specialized cells called cones. They're responsible for color vision.
The cone cells, right?
And there are three main types. We usually call them L, M, and S cones. L cones are most sensitive to long wavelengths, think reds. M cones to medium wavelengths, greens. And S cones to short wavelength, blues.
Red, green, blue cones. Got it.
And the millions of colors we see every day, that's just our brain interpreting the different signals coming from these three cone types based on how strongly they're stimulated by the light hitting our eyes. Different mixes create different color.
Okay, standard color vision. So where does Olo fit in, or rather, how does it bypass this usual mechanism?
This is the really clever and, frankly, kind of surprising part. It turns out that under normal conditions, with natural light, it's impossible to stimulate only the M cones, the green-sensitive ones, right in the center of the retina.
Wait, only the green ones. You can't do that with sunlight or lamps.
No. Natural light is always a mix of wavelengths. It always triggers a combination of L, M, and S cones to some degree. You never get a situation where only the M cones in that central region, the fovea, are firing intensely while the others are silent.
Ah, I see. So natural light is always a chorus, never a solo for the M cones in the middle.
Exactly. But the lasers, they could achieve that solo.
How do they manage that? Their
Yeah.
precision must be incredible.
It really is. They used a technique involving adaptive optics, similar to what astronomers use to get clearer images of stars. First, they scanned the volunteers' retinas at a microscopic level to map the exact locations of individual cone cells.
Mapping individual cells.
Yeah. And they identified the M cones specifically. Then, using this map, they aimed a precisely controlled laser beam to deliver a tiny, brief flash of light directly onto a single M cone.
Got one cone.
Just one, or a very small group of M cones, crucially without hitting the neighboring L or S cones significantly. It's this highly specific, isolated stimulation of the M cones that seems to trigger the brain to perceive.
Golo. So the brain receives this signal it's never, ever received before, just pure M-cone activation, and it has to invent a perception for it.
That seems to be what's happening. It's an input that falls outside the normal operating parameters of our visual system, and the brain interprets it as this unique, supersaturated sensation.
That is fascinating. Okay, now the big question I know everyone's thinking. If this color signal can be generated, will we ever see Olo in the wild? Or, maybe on future tests.
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? But the researchers have been pretty emphatic about this. When asked if we'll see Olo naturally,
Yeah.
the answer is a firm no.
A flat-out no. Okay, so no accidental Olo sightings. What about technology, then? Surely we can build a screen that does this eventually, maybe a future VR headset.
You'd think so, but again, the researchers are pouring cold water on that idea, at least for now. They've explicitly said, we're not going to see Olo on any smartphone displays or any TVs anytime soon.
Anytime soon. Okay.
And they added, and this is very, very far beyond VR headset technology.
Very, very far beyond VR. That's saying something given how fast VR tech is moving.
It really is. It underscores just how specific and, well, unnatural the required stimulation is.
So just to reiterate why, is because screens work by mixing red, green, and blue light, right? Stimulating combinations of cones.
Exactly. Your phone screen, your TV, they use pixels made of red, green, and blue subpixels. They create colors by lighting these up in different combinations to trick your L, M, and S cones into responding similarly to how they'd respond to natural colors.
But they can't do that super precise M-cone only isolation trick that the laser did.
Precisely. They're designed to mimic natural light stimulation patterns, not to create entirely novel isolated cone signals like the one needed for Olo. It's a fundamental difference in approach.
This whole discovery is it really shifts your perspective on color and perception. What's the bigger picture here? What's the real significance of finding a color we can barely glimpse with high-tech lasers?
Well, I think it tells us something profound about the potential, maybe the untapped potential, of our own sensory systems and our brains.
Also,
The fact that the brain can construct a coherent, albeit indescribable sensory experience from such an alien input signal, that's remarkable. It wasn't just noise or confusion. It was, as Reneng said, jaw-dropping. It suggests our brains might be more flexible in interpreting sensory data than we thought.
so our visual system isn't maybe as fixed or limited as we assume.
Perhaps not entirely. It shows that the potential for experience might extend beyond what evolution has equipped us for in the natural world. Technology, in this case the laser, acted as a key to unlock a door that nature never opened.
Makes you wonder, doesn't it, what other perceptions might be lurking just outside our normal range?
Exactly. Or there are other colors. Or maybe similar hidden potentials in our other senses, like hearing or smell, waiting for the right, perhaps unnatural stimulus.
That's a really thought-provoking angle.
It certainly pushes the boundaries of how we think about perception.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up.
Yeah.
The core takeaway for everyone listening. Scientists have genuinely found a way to induce the perception of a new color, Olo. It's described as incredibly saturated, maybe bluish-greenish, but ultimately unique.
But, and this is the crucial part, it requires stimulating specific green cone cells in the center of the retina with a laser in total isolation, something that natural light doesn't do, and something our current screens are nowhere near capable of replicating.
So, no Olo Instagram filters coming soon.
I'm afraid not. It remains an experience confined to the lab. For now, at least.
And maybe just to leave everyone with something to chew on. This discovery of Olo, this glimpse beyond our normal visual world, it really forces us to ask bigger questions, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Questions about the nature of reality versus perception, the limits of our biology, and maybe most excitingly, what other hidden sensory capabilities might we possess? What other boundaries could technology or even future evolution potentially allow us to cross? What else is out there waiting to be perceived?